Krishna. Jai Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, Jai Shri Shri Radhe Shyam. Srila Prabhupada's 125th appearance day, Avirbhav Maha Utsava Ke Jai. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada, for very kindly taking so much pains for all of us, particularly myself. You decided to come here to the United States on a cargo ship that had just this much space to sit. It was hardly even space to walk or even sleep. In a place where junk was carried, cargo was carried from one part of the world to another part of the world, you decided to just sit in that one small corner to come to the United States. And in this endeavor, things were never rosy for you, dear Srila Prabhupada. There was always obstacles. You had obstacles from your family. There were obstacles even amidst the so-called devotees who were there along with you during those days. You started the League of Devotees in Jhansi 1954, but somehow, due to Krishna's inconceivable mercy, that didn't materialize. Your business failed. You tried to start it again, but again it failed. And then time and again, Srila Saraswati Thakur, the Lion Guru, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was coming in your dreams and inspiring and motivating you to take the renounced order of life, that is sannyas. But still, there was something holding back. You had this thought that how can I leave my family and how can I go and take sannyas? But then eventually, Srila Saraswati Thakur empowered your heart and empowered you in the process to take this renounced order of life, that is the sannyas. And then eventually, as you moved to Radha Damodar Mandir of Srila Jiva Goswami, where you stayed for a couple of years and you translated many books there. In one of those instances, I'm remembering one Brajavasi Sadhu, when Prabhupada was there in Radha Damodar Mandir, one Brajavasi Sadhu came to Srila Prabhupada and asked Srila Prabhupada, because Prabhupada was actually writing with a Parker pen. You see, Parker pens are so expensive. So Prabhupada was translating Srimad Bhagavatam with a Parker pen. So this Sadhu came, Brajavasi Sadhu, and he asked Prabhupada, in Hindi, Braj Bhasha, he said, Swamiji, Parker pen? Because we're talking about 1960s and no one uses a Parker pen back then. So he said, Swamiji, Parker pen? And Prabhupada was so witty that immediately Prabhupada shot back by saying, हाँ, और इसी भागवत को पढ़कर सब भवसागर पार कर देंगे. So there was just a play of words. One meaning is Parker, the Parker pen, but in Hindi, Parker means to cross over the ocean of birth and death. So Prabhupada very intelligently said, हाँ, इसी भागवत को पढ़कर सब भवसागर पार कर देंगे. So there we find as to how Srila Prabhupada every night would sweep the courtyard of Srila Rupa Goswami Samadhi and Sanatan Goswami Samadhi, and he would cry and weep. O Rupa, O Sanatan, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, Sai Mora Sampada, Sai Mora Pujana, Sai Mora Pranadhana, Sai Hoy Abharana. You'd pray to Rupa Goswami, pray to Rupa Manjari, pray to Sanatan Goswami. Hey Rupa, hey Sanatan, Das Raghunath, Gopal Bhatta, Jiva Goswami. You would pray to these 6 Goswamis so that they could empower. And as we have heard, Srila Rupa Goswami appeared in front of Srila Prabhupada, which clearly illustrates this point that the pure Vaishnavas, they never die. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, he reasons ill who says Vaishnavas died. Thou art still living in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name around. So Srila Rupa Goswami appeared to our Srila Prabhupada and encouraged and motivated Srila Prabhupada that you go to the west, I will be there behind you. If the fountainhead of the Sampradaya is giving this guarantee that he will be there behind you, what is there to fear? So Prabhupada got this instruction personally from Srila Rupa Goswami. Of course, he had this instruction from his most revered spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But now when it also came from Srila Rupa Goswami, Prabhupada decided to go on this historic journey to the West. And in this endeavor, we find he had 2 heart attacks. After 37 days, when he reached Boston Harbor, Commonwealth Pier, the place is still there for the devotees who have been to Boston or are planning to go to Boston. My 2 cents would be to visit this historic place, that is the Commonwealth Pier, where Srila Prabhupada, he landed after 37 days on a cargo ship. Mother Malti, in one of the offerings in 2015, which marked the 50th arrival of Srila Prabhupada, 2015-2016 time. So Mother Malati and all the devotees in ISKCON Boston, they kind of hired a ship and they went around in a ship. And in the ship were many Prabhupada disciples who were glorifying Prabhupada because it was the 50th anniversary. So they tried to recreate the scene of the ship. And the ship was going around for like a couple of hours. And in that, Mother Malti made such a beautiful point that literally brought tears to the devotees who were present. Mother Malati, she said that I am just 30 minutes in the ship and I'm already feeling dizzy. I can't even imagine how my revered spiritual master Srila Prabhupada came on the ship for 37 days at the age of 70. This is historic. She said, I'm there just for 30 minutes and I'm already feeling dizzy. In Hindi, we say, chakkarana. I'm already feeling dizzy. She said, I can't even imagine how Prabhupada did it for 37 days with 2 heart attacks. And the journey was never smooth. Even after landing here in the United States, Prabhupada didn't know whether to go left. He didn't know whether to go right because those days there was no GPS. There's no Alexa. There's no Google Echo Dot. There's none of these things. He didn't know whether to go left, whether to go right, no contacts, no phone, because we're talking like 50, 60 years in the past. Prabhupada did not even have winter clothes because Vrindavan, it gets cold, but Boston gets way more cold, especially in the winters. Just to give a rough idea, if you see the winters of Boston, it goes up to -15 and -20 Celsius. So which means it is very cold. And Prabhupada had no winter clothes. So he arrived in September when the winter has just started. And it was freezing cold, Boston winters. And then we find eventually he went to Sally Agrawal in Butler, Pennsylvania. But there also somehow things didn't work and he was asked to leave. Even when he was living in Butler, Pennsylvania, we find that Prabhupada was sharing the fridge that had meat in it. But Prabhupada never complained. Never complained. This is the mood of a Paramhamsa, to always remain equipoised. Nirapeksha munim shantim nirvairim samadarshina anuvrajamya ham nityam puya yatrangi renubi. Krishna in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam describes that a pure Vaishnava is someone who is shant, peaceful. He never gets agitated. Even if waves of calamities are rising in his life, just like it happened for Prabhupada. Prabhupada was always calm. He was always shant. And this is the quality of a pure Vaishnava, of a Paramhamsa, very exalted Vaishnava. So that didn't work out for Prabhupada. And then eventually we find Prabhupada shifted many places and every time it somehow just didn't click. So it was never the case that it was a smooth road for Prabhupada. Even in India, there were family problems. He established a League of Devotees, which didn't work. In the Jaladuta, there were heart attacks. Oh, of course, in India, his business also collapsed 2 times. There were heart attacks in the ship. Now, after coming to the US, someone would think that, oh, he's going to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. It should be a smooth affair. But Krishna decides to test Prabhupada. And there were so many calamities. Things just didn't work out. People would come and people would go. But Prabhupada was still determined. And then eventually, finally, when the right man came, the historic place of 26 Second Avenue was found, Matchless Gifts. And indeed, that is the place from where Prabhupada decided to give matchless gift, that matchless gift of Krishna Prem to the whole world. It's interesting that sometimes we feel that this term matchless gifts is coined by Prabhupada. But if we see the Lilamrit, it is actually not coined by Srila Prabhupada, because that storefront, 26 Second Avenue, which is still present, the old owner of that shop had named the shop as Matchless Gifts. And naturally, when the devotees took charge of that shop, they just kept it the same name, because what Prabhupada was giving there was actually matchless gifts, the matchless gift of Gaur Prem, the matchless gift of the holy name, the matchless gift of the land of Sri Vrindavan. So it was indeed matchless gifts that Srila Prabhupada was giving out. And it's almost like as if Sri Krishna himself had coined this name, matchless gift, for Srila Prabhupada. And we find eventually Prabhupada ended up circling the globe multiple times, creating so many farm communities and so many temples, initiating so many disciples for all of us, the second generation, who have not had the fortune of meeting Srila Prabhupada. For all of us who have not met Srila Prabhupada, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada are there to carry the same mood of Srila Prabhupada. And through their Hari Katha, through their beautiful kirtans, they are all trying to give us the same mood that Srila Prabhupada gave in their hearts in the initial days of ISKCON. Srila Prabhupada was once in a morning walk, and there was one disciple of Srila Prabhupada who came up to Srila Prabhupada. And in those days, there was one author who had come up with a book. And the name of the book was, I Am Okay, You Are Okay. This was the name of the book. I am okay, you're okay. So this disciple, he went and told Srila Prabhupada that, Prabhupada, the author, he has come up with this book. I am okay, you're okay. And when Prabhupada heard this, Prabhupada put his stick down firmly to the ground. And Prabhupada said, go and tell him, I am okay, you're not okay. But if you come to me, I will make you okay. This was typical Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, I am okay, you are not okay. If you come to me, I will make you okay. This is sadhu guru, as Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj would say. A sadhu is someone who removes the cataract of illusion from our eyes so that we can actually see reality in truth, who kicks away illusion from our life once and for all. So Prabhupada very beautifully sometimes would have this instant witty nature. And we find Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, when he describes the 26 qualities of a pure Vaishnava. One of the quality that he describes is to be witty, or to be intelligent, or to be poetic. And we find in the first example, Srila Prabhupada, he was poetic by using the word Parker, that is the Parker pen or the Parker, to cross over. Here in this instance, we find Srila Prabhupada, he very beautifully said that I am okay, you're not okay, but if you come to me, I will make you okay. So very intelligent and coming up with this witty, spontaneous answers. And Prabhupada had this ability to do it time and again. In another instance, Srila Prabhupada, he landed in London, and the reporters, they came with all their mics, they came and they wanted to interview Srila Prabhupada, because they had never seen a monk with a shaved head and saffron cloth and having so many followers. So they were intrigued and they were curious. So they were asking Prabhupada various questions. And in particular, one of the questions that they asked Srila Prabhupada was, they asked Srila Prabhupada, Swamiji, can you describe what is hell? We always say, if you do good, you go to heaven. You do bad, you go to hell. Can you describe hell? Briefly, how does hell look like? Can you describe something? And Prabhupada, when he heard this question, he so beautifully said, Prabhupada said, hell? Oh, it is dark, it is damp, and it is gloomy. just like your London. This was so witty of Srila Prabhupada. Just imagine Prabhupada is in London speaking to the London reporters and comparing hell to London. He said, it is dark, it is damp, and it is gloomy, just like your London. And the reporter who was asking this question, the way Prabhupada conveyed was so easy to take that even the London reporters took it in the right perspective. So the point I'm trying to make here is the way Srila Prabhupada had this ability to come up with very spontaneous, witty answers. And Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Siddhu, he categorizes this as one of the qualities of a pure Vaishnava, to be poetic or to be witty in answering and trying to connect the answers to Krishna. Because even in this world, we find there are many people who are witty, but being witty is just not a quality of a pure Vaishnava. To be witty enough to connect that to Sri Krishna, that is the quality of a pure devotee. And this is something that we find Prabhupada throughout his life demonstrated. So on this most auspicious, wonderful day of Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, 125th appearance, we would want to prostrate 1,000,000 times at the lotus feet of Prabhupada and over again for gifting this world 3 most invaluable gems in my limited understanding. Srila Prabhupada gifted, the first gift that he gave this world was the most invaluable gift of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. We say, Yadi Gaur na hoito tabe ki hoito, Kemone dharitam de radhara mahima prema rasasima jagat janate ke. If Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wouldn't have been there, how would we have known the glories of Radha and Krishna? But I personally feel that had Prabhupada not been there, how would we even know about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the storehouse of Radha Krishna Prem, but it is Prabhupada who introduced us to Gauranga Mahaprabhu. So very beautifully, as His Holiness Srila Jayapadaka Swami Maharaj says, Yadi Prabhupada na hoito tabe ki hoito, ye jivana bahita kishe. If Prabhupada had not been there, who would have introduced us to Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu? So that is the first gift that Srila Prabhupada has given all of us. The second and the most important gift is the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Kaler dosha nide rajan, astihi eko mahan gunaha, kirtanad aiva krishnasya mukta sangam param raje. Krite tad dhyayete vishnum tretayam yachator makai dvapare paricharyayam kalau tad hari kirtana yad apnoti tad apnoti kalau sankirta keshava. Time and again in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that the only solution, the only medicine in this dark age of Kali is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Had it not been for Srila Prabhupada, how would we ever have got this treasure, this unparalleled, sweetest juice, that is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Madhuram madhurebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi Hare Rama eva kevalam. Madhuram madhurebhyopi. Harinam Prabhu is the sweetest of the sweets. Of all the auspiciousness, Harinam Prabhu is the most auspicious. Hare Nama Iva Kevalam. The holy name is the only thing in this age of Kali that will help us cross over this deep, dark ocean of repeated birth and death. So had it not been for Prabhupada, whose appearance day we are celebrating today, how would we have ever got this jewel of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra? And finally, Srila Prabhupada gave us the most invaluable jewel of the land of Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan, Radha Damodar Mandir, to give Vrindavan to the whole world. For those devotees who have been to to Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, Jiva Goswami's temple, the place where Prabhupada lived, that room, outside that room, there is a marble slab that is put. And it is written, "This temple of Jiva Goswami is my life and soul." Signed, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Prabhupada would time and again say that this temple, this place of Radha Damodar is my life and soul. At one point, Srila Prabhupada was there in Los Angeles. And he asked Tamal Krishna Maharaj, "Where am I?" We may think that, oh, this is an obvious question, that Prabhupada, you are in Los Angeles. And that is what His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, that Prabhupada, you are in Los Angeles. And Prabhupada said, no, I am in Vrindavan. It may seem like I'm in Los Angeles, but my heart is still hankering for that small room of Radha Damodar Mandir of Srila Jiva Goswami. Even though that room was small, that room in the land of Braj gave me maximum happiness. So Prabhupada left Vrindavan to give Vrindavan to the whole world. And now we find in Kartik Yatras, all of us, we try to book tickets and fly from different parts of the world to stay 30 days in the month of Kartik and try to absorb in this mood of Braj. And I've seen so many devotees that just after being 1 week in the land of Vrindavan, they do not feel any inspiration to come back to the Western world. One devotee was telling me here in Seattle, when he went to Vrindavan for the first time, he was there in Vrindavan for like 2 weeks. And the day when he was about to come back to Seattle, he called me and said, "Prabhuji, I don't feel like coming back." He's a US citizen, by the way. He said, "Prabhuji, I don't feel like coming back. I feel like just settling down in this land of Braj and absorbing myself in this mood." Because it is so easy to perform bhakti. Wherever you go, everyone is chanting Radhe, Radhe, Radhe. In the trees, there is Radhe, Radhe. The people who are walking, they say Radhe, Radhe. The cycle rickshaws, there are no bells, but they say Radhe, Radhe. So it's so conducive to perform bhakti. So if people like us do not feel like leaving the land of Vrindavan, we can just imagine how painful it would have been for Prabhupada to leave the land of Vrindavan, to go out, to preach to the hippies. How difficult it would have been. But Prabhupada, who had Vrindavan in his heart, he ended up giving Vrindavan to the whole world. He ended up making the hippies into happies. And this can be done only by someone who has Vrindavan in his heart. Vrindavan can be given to others only when someone has something. Only if I have $10 can I give someone $10. Similarly, to give Vrindavan to the whole world, that person should have had Vrindavan in his heart. So it is very obvious that Prabhupada carried Vrindavan in his heart. He had the mood of Braj in his heart. And it is for this reason he could infuse every town and village with this most valuable Braja Prem. So, in my humble opinion, these are the 3 most invaluable gifts Srila Prabhupada has given us. That is Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu, the chanting of the holy name, and the land of Vrindavan. So on this day, as they rightly say, na bhuto, na bhavishyati. In Sanskrit, they say, na bhuto, na bhavishyati. Never in the past and never in the future. Which means, Srila Prabhupada, there was no one like you in the past. There is no one like you in the present. And there will be, for sure, no one like you in the future. Thank you so much, Prabhupada, once again, for adventing on the most auspicious day of Nandotsav and blessing all of us with your most divine presence through your books, through your lectures, and through your kirtans. And most importantly, your wonderful, glorious disciples who are tirelessly traveling around the world, fulfilling your mission of spreading Krishna Prem. Thank you so much, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.